Well, welcome. Welcome to the Pastor and Counselor Partnership Webinar, Making Marriage Made Whole Together. I'm going to give everyone a minute to have gotten their links, an opportunity to log in, hopefully opening up your lunches before we get started. I promise I'm going to keep you here for 30 or so minutes. Thank you for being here. So whether you're a pastor, whether you are a priest, whether you are a ministry leader, or maybe a mentor in the area of marriages, you guys are here. I'm looking for the commonality that we all share, the same passion and the same pursuit, wanting marriages to thrive and be made whole. So thank you for coming. Thank you for attending. And we're going to get started here pretty quick. I'm going to be following a workbook format. And so we are dropping the links to all of that in the chat right now for you to be able to open up and follow along. So as everybody's getting all settled in and maybe getting access to those workbooks, if you want to say hello, that I know I'm out there, you're hearing me, where you're at, that the sound is good. Yes, so I am your host for today, Dr. Shannon Roberts, all the way in Tampa, Florida, and we are actually finally feeling a hint of fall today. I know maybe my fall is very different from your fall. We had maybe a fluctuation of 4 degrees today and a difference in a little bit of the humidity. So hopefully you are somewhere enjoying fall colors and experiencing a little bit of a shift in the hot summer that we had. And I know a lot of you, especially you, hi from Chicago. Thank you for showing. Know a lot of you pastors are intensely keeping updated on the happenings of Israel and in fervent prayer for them and wanting to seek some kind of guidance and consoling your congregation and your shepherding pursuits of the people that God has entrusted. As I was sitting in my quiet time this morning, I came across one of David's Psalms, Psalms 25, 22, and have been praying that ever so much on my breath prayers throughout this morning. Redeem Israel, O God, from all their troubles. So as our hearts are heavy, we are praying in fervent likeness and commonalities of God's people. So thank you for showing up. So let's get just go ahead and get right in. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to drop them in the chat, and I'll try to address them as I see them coming in. I just wanted to take the opportunity. I offer several of these kinds of webinars throughout the year. One, because of our shared passion to see marriages thrive. 40% of the effectiveness of any kind of counseling is knowing, liking, trusting the actual person that you are working with. But in this particular webinar, as you guys are on the front line, the hospital per se of breathing oxygen into marriages and family, there's an extra level of sensitivity of knowing, liking, and trusting any professional that you might lead, guide, and direct, or entrust your people to. So this is my opportunity to give you a little bit about myself, a little bit about my background, how I work, and developing some level of open communication so that we can partner together in those distinct pursuits and passions. So let me just give you a little bit of background about me, and then I'm going to get into some kind of areas of my particular expertise and how that comes into play. First and foremost, even though I've been in the Tampa, Florida area for the last 21 and a half years, I was born and raised in Oklahoma City. Putnam City Baptist Church. Dr. Rod Masteller was my pastor throughout my childhood. I came to know the Lord at a very young age of 8. It came directly after my parents divorced. We moved back to the Oklahoma City area where she had been raised, back with her support network, my maternal grandparents. And of course, she began working as a single head of the household mom to 4. And a lot of times that meant weekend work, overnight work, that type of thing. But we had a friend of the family that began taking me to church on Sunday mornings, where I heard the amazing gospel that I had a heavenly Father that would never leave or forsake me. And I was moved by the Holy Spirit to become a follower and a believer in Jesus Christ. And from that point on, I had 2 resiliency factors throughout my tumultuous childhood. I grounded myself in church and had a deeply grounded faith. And I had a commitment to academics as a way out of my poverty. And these became the 2 biggest resiliency factors that influenced my life and passion and calling. And even to this day, as I reflect on it, my brand is really presenting a blended approach to this area of expertise that I want it to be biblically founded, God's written word, but I also want it to be based on what we know to be true science, God's spoken word. And so that kind of is my brand. So I want to give you a little bit of background about that. I went on to graduate from Oklahoma Baptist University, and I majored in psychology and minored in religion. After that, I went on to get my master's degree in professional counseling at the University of South Alabama in Mobile, Alabama. Continued to want to integrate the Christian worldview into the psychology of counseling. I went to Liberty University and got my PhD in professional counseling. And I specifically wanted to do my research in the area that I found the greatest amount of joy in serving in the population of marriages and seeing marriages thrive. And my doctoral dissertation, a phenomenological analysis of God attachment, romantic attachment, and relationship satisfaction in Christian couples completing an emotionally focused marital intensive. So basically, emotionally focused therapy is a secular intervention, but it's seeing the highest amount of success rates out there today in the area of couples counseling. 90% success rate through the meta-analysis literature. But in my doctoral research, having known that I would be working specifically with Christian couples and couples of faith, I wanted to know if by adding the spiritual dimension, the biblical foundation, if it would have equal amount of effectiveness. And I found that to be true. I founded Christian Counseling of South Tampa in 2004. We anchored with all the local churches and the pastors, providing them all kinds of level of services. But most specifically, obviously, is the referral of couples from their congregation that went beyond what pastors felt like their area of expertise was, and also what maybe their programming provided. So I do regard my calling and passion to be a discipleship arm of the church. I say it's a discipleship on steroids because I do feel like it comes out of and comes back to all foundationally the local church. I went on in 2019 to expand in Shannon Roberts Counseling program and beyond the Tampa Bay area. I'll be speaking to you a little bit more about that. And continue to partner with pastors and churches, hence my connection with you today. So thank you for that. I am a licensed professional counselor in many states, Alabama, Georgia. However, in the state of Florida, that same reciprocity licensing is a licensed mental health counselor. And so I'm licensed here in the state of Florida as well. And I'm a board certified professional Christian counselor through the American Association of Christian Counselors and have been since their inception in 2008. Because of my dissertation work, I have gone on to write a marriage restorative program, and it incorporates that faith element into the emotionally focused therapy intervention. So it's a biblically based program working with couples in a 2, sometimes 3-day intensive within an online follow-up program. And so we are sensitive to the fact that couples might need to travel to the in-state licensing board regulations to receive the counseling component in this 2 or 3-day intensive. And then as they return to wherever you are and back within your church shepherding and guidance and accountability, they can experience a follow-up program of 6 months or more if needed in more of the coaching modality, having gotten all of the 6 months worth of counseling up front. Having been married for 34 years while serving in all levels of ministry, specifically in pastoring in the local church for 13 years, it gives me a very unique sensitivity, specialized understanding of all the aspects of ministry and church policies, and the sensitivity of knowing that the partnering with the local church is imperative for the success of my couples. And it also allows me to have more sensitive and confidential plans in helping pastors plan for maybe even specific restorative process needs within themselves and or any one that's serving in their church as well. I've been working in this area as a Christian marriage therapist for over 30 years, and always in a private setting while pastoring and also partnering with pastors and churches. So I'm jumping back now to the very front of your workbook. Let me just give you a little bit of what some of the literature review in my dissertation revealed. I offer this not as an insult because nothing I'm going to tell you is new. You probably know all of this, but I want you to know foundationally where I come from and from which the understanding of marriage is, specifically in the sensitivity of the culture of a Christian couple or a faith-based couple. I offer this kind of education as well to therapists because we are called by our ethnic boards to offer cultural and ethnical sensitivity in providing a good service to the unique nuances of each one of our clients. And so here are those unique nuances. What we know to be true of couples of faith is that they believe that God is directly involved in their marriage. And so when I'm sitting in the room, I know that I have really 3 clients. I have the husband uniquely bringing in his unique individual personalities and backgrounds, areas of sensitivities and vulnerabilities, as well as then the individual client of the wife. But I also have the unique us the marriage. And for Christian marriages, they believe that that us is wrapped into three: her, him, and God. We know that couples of faith believe that God's involvement in their marriage influences how they prevent, resolve, and overcome marital conflict. They have a truth baseline of what they lend themselves to in their belief system, that bringing God into those areas informs them, instructs them, and helps and comforts them. So we do bring God into the presence of our counseling intervention. Couples of faith demonstrate a greater commitment to seeking reconciliation rather than divorce. That speaks to me as a professional that they're looking for someone that's going to believe that too. There's so many times that couples come to me specifically looking for someone that is sensitive to their value set, their Christian belief principles, and don't want to hear from the person that they've employed to help their marriage suggest that they divorce in their marriage. So, but we also know that because of this, couples, Christian couples specifically, wait a little bit longer to seek out outside intervention. So they've been maybe in their stuck places or in their areas of pain points or conflict points for maybe a little bit longer. The average is 4 to 7 years before couples think about and actually get to a professional counselor. For Christians, it seems to be a little bit longer, and they usually come in with an added level, a unique, sensitive, added level of shame and or guilt, a sense of failure that they even have to seek that kind of help, thinking that they could have done it on their own, that their faith practices should have informed them better. And so, creating a very warm, inviting, empathic atmosphere is really important for them to work through some of that, for them to get to a place of acceptance. And I know that as pastors, you probably know that because you are probably the first line. You are the front line. You're out there. And knowing that you're even on this webinar makes me believe that you have a very healthy hospital for people to feel the freedom to come and seek you out. And whether your policy is to see them 1 to 3 times, whatever that is, you're usually the one that is speaking life into that from the very get-go. Unfortunately, what we're seeing in the divorce rate is that over the past decades, it has been resting at give or take 50%. And unfortunately, we see that there's no variance in actually people that identify them to be Christian in marriages, about 50 to 52%. Same thing for Christian marriages as well as secular marriages in the divorce rate. However, there's a unique nuance between, as if we get into Christian marriages, and the ones that divorce and the ones that are able to survive or thrive, we do see that those marriages that have habitual church attendance, that they have activity in their faith and their practices, we do see a variance in their divorce rates, and they are significantly lower than the national average. So I know that my work with you is imperative, that for marriages to really thrive, they have to come in alignment with what you're providing, with the accountability, the support, the programming, the faith practices, the encouragement, and the scripture that you provide in their attendance. What we're seeing is an update in the Barna Group from 2017 Of those who identify as born-again Christians, 59% of those adults get married as compared to the national average of 52%. So more people are still moving to the institution of marriage if they identify themselves as born-again Christians. However, we are seeing a trend that cohabitation before marriage, which also includes evangelicals, has increased to 75%. And a lot of them are taking the step of cohabitating first to test their compatibility. And it has increased to 75% of those who marry that identify themselves as evangelicals. Those amount have taken steps to cohabitate first. And we also know that the literature tells us that cohabitation is a red flag, that more people that cohabitate first, either one, don't move to be married, or two, it's a bigger risk of divorce. We are seeing adults staying single longer. 59% of the populations stay single until the age of 25 to 29. And 34% are staying single to the ages of 30 to 39. That's an important statistic that I'll get to back in a minute. And we're also seeing that 24% of all practicing Christians have been divorced. I'm sure that doesn't surprise you. So as you're looking out over your congregation, that means 1 in 4 adults who are married have been married before. And unfortunately, it's a little higher for those of you that are in what you determine as evangelical church settings. 25% have been divorced. So what is that implications of? We are in it for the fight, and we're fighting for it together. Church implications. 1, more comprehensive plan for marriage preparation for singles, as they are single for a longer amount of time. And maybe a lot of times singles say, why do I need to think about marriage if I'm single, or think about marriage if I'm not planning on getting married anytime soon? But beginning the process of really structuring a programming of teaching and development as a population in the church community, and traditional family modeling formatting. You're probably already doing all that. 2, more comprehensive marriage preparation formatting for seriously dating and newly engaged and newly married couples, because it's easier to do prevention rather than remediation. And you're probably doing plenty of that. Kudos to you. Congratulations. But number 3, a more comprehensive plan and formatting for marriage retention and intervention. And whether that's a mentoring program, whether that's a counseling avenue, or a small group formatting. But in the area that I'm going to be talking to you today, in really serious need of marriage remediation and intervention on a more professional level, with the sensitivity of their culture and the confidentiality of privacy and anonymity in a private setting. So moving on, couples of faith and marriage therapy. So speaking only to number 3 of those church implications for the sake of our conversation today, couples of faith and marriage in therapy, they prefer counselors who identify themselves as Christian. And even a step beyond that, not just that they identify as Christian, but they prefer interventions that respect and incorporate their values and beliefs into the counseling setting. So spiritual interventions beyond just prayer and scripture reading, but actually incorporating the spiritual practices of seeing God as part of their marriage and God as an attachment figure, equally as powerful as their spouse. And when I say equally that, a lot of them come in with the belief that even when their spouse cannot be everything that they need them to be, needs and wants, that God can. And so we really incorporate that into marriage counseling. So spiritual formation as well. They desire an intervention that uses God to help prevent, resolve, and overcome marital conflict. I just spoke to that. And what we're finding, however, is that there is limited options of empirically supported techniques for couples practicing faith. A lot of couples come to me from out of state or from a distance and say that they just didn't have a lot of options of choice in their community. And even when they did, it didn't necessarily incorporate the intervention of faith into the actual setting of their marriage therapy. And so in my experience, having worked in this area for well over 30 years, Christian marriage therapists equipped for Christian couples specifically, utilizing evidence-based practices, equally balanced with biblically based interventions, and who are committed to the foundation and the institution of the church are really limited out there. So let me just talk to you a little bit about this emotionally focused therapy intervention for couples. It was developed by a lady named Sue Johnson and Les Greenberg. And it's the only systematic and empirically validated theory using attachment science. For those of you that have had some counseling background and probably are very aware of attachment and how God has uniquely designed and protected our most secure and safe and loving relationships, all the way from primary caregivers and children to what leaves and cleaves with the safety and security of that co-regulation of romantic partnerships. And so we're seeing how that informs romantic partnerships even today, which is what we already knew to be true biblically, but it's really great when the science supports that. And so it does marry the most recent research on adult romantic attachment, brain and body, and the therapeutic interventions on how to really go in at a deeper level to create intimate connections and safety and security emotionally and physically within the relationship. And of course, I have mentioned before that we're seeing 90% effectiveness in the meta-analysis study. And so having been trained as an emotionally focused therapist, but also incorporating the faith component to this program, it has informed how I have developed my programs. So going on to the next page. If there's any questions, I'm checking the chat so far. Comments are appreciated as well. So I do have several different offerings to meet all levels of need and finances. I do throughout the year several different free webinars or webinars such as this for couples, 6 to 8 over the course of the year, that gives them foundational steps to intervene on their marriages with workbooks. I have a marriage momentum program that's specifically for couples to work with me coaching online. For those that might not be able to travel the distance to Tampa, but need the expertise positioning of someone that ethnically can really be sensitive to their unique needs as Christians. I also offer a Marriage Made Whole intensive program. I mentioned that 2 or 3 days, dependent upon the need of the couple. And they come and work with me live here, and it's just one couple to one therapist. A lot of the other intensive formattings that you might be aware of offer group settings, so they get more individualized care, a heightened intensity with counseling intervention with their unique circumstances of their relationship. And then they have the ability to go back home and enter into the marriage momentum follow-up program, that online counseling intervention. And I do offer marriage conference and church event speaking. So those are the offerings that I wanted to be able to talk to you about today. Let me go into the Marriage Made Whole program specifically. It is biblically based. It comes from a Christian worldview, and it is faith infused into the curriculum and experiential interventions. It is holistic in its approach, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. It is developed from the emotionally focused therapy modality with the added faith component, as I mentioned, built on the science behind not only the attachment theory that I mentioned, the romantic attachment science that we're being further informed about in the most recent 20 or so years, but it also incorporates the God attachment science that is so exciting. And I am seeing 90% of effectiveness of success, meaning how this is measured, and I keep my statistics, couples that come to the intensive and go all the way through the follow-up program are reporting a tremendous amount of increased relationship satisfaction, and they're sustaining it over the course of 2 or 3 years from the time they start to the time they finished and beyond. So I am not seeing a lot of couples boomerang back in the same place that they started. It truly is seeing emotional shifts and changes in their approach that they can sustain on their own. And then they, dependent upon the unique couple and how they want to continue to do their tune-up sessions, some come and just do annual, others do maybe quarterly, but they keep on track. So why the intensive? Probably as a pastor or a ministry leader, you've probably been already aware that research and experience is moving to a more intensive format. It provides 6 months worth of counseling in 2 or 3 days. Let's be honest, couples that come in usually are in crisis and they need relief and remediation really quickly. It works according to the therapeutic needs of the counseling. So we're not dictated by the clock and that fitting it into that 50 or 60-minute format, which can be effective, but it just takes a little bit longer to get to the other side of the river. Sometimes couples describe it as like walking through mud. It's better for working professionals whose calendars may not lend themselves to consistent sessions over 4 to 6 months. It works with individual couples, not groups, allowing for the unique circumstances and confidentiality of each couple while going through a structured approach, not just talk therapy. We really have modules that we work through and get them from A to Z with added tools and resources. It provides immediate relief at the beginning of the counseling onset, and it's not necessarily then dripped out over weeks and or months. And so that better ensures that couples actually complete counseling. And as the bulk of all the skills and interventions are introduced at the beginning, it better promotes feelings of hope rather than feelings of discouragement and disillusionment over the course of the time that they're in the counseling setting. And it addresses time-sensitive needs immediately. It allows for greater options for couples to shop outside their community resources, allowing for more experienced and specialized care within their faith, as well as better comfort of confidentiality and anonymity within their community itself. So what are the benefits of us working together so that we can make marriages whole? Anyone that is, as a partner, and there's nothing to be a partner other than say, yay. Anyone that you refer personally from your congregation, there would be a discount offering to your couples. And we can go more specifically into what that offering looks like. In a minute, I'll tell you what our next steps could look like. Um, to the degree of the couple's willingness and desire and your desire, I work collaboratively with any referred cases with a pastoral team or a pastoral mentorship so that they have wraparound services of care. They come out of your congregation, they're coming back to your congregation, hopefully changed and more open and receptive to a bigger diving into the offerings that you have. And you have a peace of mind of referring to a professionally trained, experienced, and biblically grounded therapist that encourages couples back to the church. I've included 2 pastors in which you might want to listen to. I have a Love Leading with Dr. Shannon podcast. I've included the 2 links of these 2 pastors that I've interviewed so that you can hear their testimony and their work with me. As well as the Love Leading podcast, I also interview couples that are willing to give testimony to their time having worked through my program and being able to testify to the results of how it has incorporated into their relationship and their marriage today. So you might want to check those out. So that leads me to what's next? Well, I would love to get on the phone with you. You're probably a very responsible leader within the realm of your church, and so it might mean that you have, some specific questions on what it all looks like. I would love to have you scheduled getting to know you. As I'm talking about all these different opportunities, you can refer to the chat and the screen as we are putting up all the links. It's really easy to go and schedule a 30-minute free consult with me. It drops you right into my scheduling calendar for us to get on the phone and get to know each other in a more personalized way than what I can offer you today. Or you might want to just promote this free webinar to the people within your counseling, in your church, or even your mentors as a training, or specifically to your church congregation as a free resource. The next one that will be scheduled is coming up on Sunday, November 12th at 6 o'clock in the evening. And there is some graphics that you can just lift and share right here. Of course, I mentioned that I have the Love Leading podcast, so that's a free resource that you can offer to any of your couples or as you're continuing to want to ingest and get to know me better. And I just recently have my first book out. It talks about exactly some of the things that I just shared with you, but specifically how it has materialized into the program that I offer to my couples. And it is called Naked and Exposed, Learning to Love Well Using the Intimacy for Life Method in Your Marriage. And there's a link if you want to order it. And there's a little bio as to what you can expect to find within that book. So that's it for today. Okay, I went a little over time. I said around 30 minutes, 30 to 40. Hopefully I was able to do that in a condensed format for you to be able to take 30 or so minutes of your time to eat your lunch, join me, get to know me, and get right back to your calling and purpose, because I know this is a small sliver as to what you need to think and worry about in your own pursuits. So thank you for joining me today, and God bless. I look forward to getting on a consult call with each and every one of you.